Hey, Anurag, Nikita,
Good evening.
the gang's back together again. Sorry about changing daylight savings. I never thought about the global implication of shifting daylight savings by 2 weeks. I very much enjoy it personally because I much prefer daylight savings time. Have some doesn't get dark at 4:30 or 5:30 at night anymore.
Yep.
But
It's very
seems like
interesting that stock exchange open hours also shifts for Europe.
Yeah, I didn't do that. That means it starts even earlier.
Yep.
Lately, my stocks aren't doing so well because all I do are buy tech stocks.
Oh yeah. Don't talk about stocks.
so. I don't know what. I threw a couple of open PRs we can chat about. But any bigger topics on your mind?
I think I have one topic is again the very same vendor distribution stability that I mentioned on Slack. So that specific issue was more or less, well, SDK auto configuration module. So first question, but we don't have John here. So first question to Anurag, what plans about auto configuration stability? And yes, I have read Slack. And the second question, do we have something in agent right now which influences vendor distributions? I don't remember from top of my head if we have. Maybe do we want? I don't know. Do we know that we have to do anything before we can say that okay, vendor distributions should be stable except of individual instrumentations which telemetry data is still in flux?
Right. So there's definitely some SPIs in the Java Agent API. I don't think those are. I mean, the key ones, the most important ones, are in auto configure for like configuring span exporters, things that I would think most people would want. Where am I?
You are in the right place, seems to be.
All right. API. Oh no, I'm not. So we have a whole separate SPI, Java Agent SPI. Yes. So we have these, but these are pretty advanced, I would think, for customers. Um, these, I thought these were went away.
Yeah, do we need them, especially in SPI?
I'm just searching. We. Oh, we're right. We kept them. I think we kept them around until we get rid of the exporter jar. Because yeah, those shouldn't be needed really. Right, Anurag, you added something similar to this in the auto configure where you can do the named span factories. Cool. So, I mean, Nikita, do you think we're good with, do you think any of these things need to be stable?
I just saw property source.
Yeah.
Which is certainly a good thing. I even think yeah, so that certainly is used.
I've been considering moving that to SDK. I think that is a good idea. That would be one way to tie it to that artifact.
Well, then, so that's certainly a question that needs to be answered if property source is agent SPI or SDK auto config.
Yeah. So, I would expect a lot of customers overriding the propagators default.
Well, the propagator is certainly a very, very, very corner case, but well, we used to have one which uses very custom propagator, yeah. Other than
not even. I mean, most people will be overriding it to B3, I think, for the custom distros.
Oh, via the property source.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
If that's what like if I had a distro and I was using B3, then that's what I would do.
Yeah. Using default configuration, like we do use for default propagator selection and for default exporter selection, which differs from default.
I think if we move property source to SDK, these other ones aren't important to stabilize right away, which is probably good because they're so advanced. I'm still not so sure they're great APIs.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to stabilize these.
But what are our like criteria for stabilizing? So they are advanced, okay. We are reluctant to claim to declare them stable yet, okay, but what has to happen for us to be comfortable to declare them stable?
Time.
There's also the option.
Do you mean like time? Let's say 6 months and we declare it stable, or
usage. I'd like to see more, as more people adopt and build distros, see if there's
how do we see usage? For that, we have to actively ask some users somewhere, and please tell us that you are using that.
Well, that's sort of back to the time thing of like, well, at least if in 6 months, if we haven't heard complaints about it, that's some kind of marker.
Okay, but do we want to wait 6 months for that, or 1 month, or 2 months?
So we should also consider one option that, I mean, we can define our annotation unstable API or something and just never stabilize these if we think they're too advanced. That's always an option. One thing I would consider, like for example, this ByteBuddy agent customizer. If something changed in our agent and it's just not possible for us to support that in a backwards compatible way, anyways, like it seems a bit too into the details for us to really be confident we can maintain the API for a long term. That's one sense I have. These are really just providing implementation detail hooks. I think they're not really APIs in some sense.
Another thought on here, Anurag had mentioned this idea before about turning all of these into more of like an agent builder pattern, where you would just at pre-main, you would, in your distro, you would build up your agent distro, build, to set the different hooks, as opposed to basically similar hooks, but not relying on SPI.
Well, but that means essentially stabilizing our agent builder, which is
Same,
fine.
yeah,
but
it's the same problem.
yeah, but what is the easier?
I guess maybe I would ask, what is the benefit for stabilizing these?
Well, the benefit is the stability for end users, for vendor distribution, creator, that when they upgrade from version X to version X+2, they don't have a break-in build, or at least they have break-in build compile time, not runtime. Like when we remove that tracer customizer, that essentially worked fine compile time for some time, but then broke. Or am I talking nonsense? Yeah, so
Yeah,
anyway,
Tracer
stability.
customizer, that functionality is in the auto configure.
Yeah, now it is.
Just wondering, like, these feel to me not like things that end users would be using, and mainly
Well, end users in this specific case, end users are distribution authors.
vendors.
Yeah, vendors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I don't know. I mean, bootstrap packages provider, for example, if I'm not mistaken, we ourselves used it for what? Did we use it for something? What was the thing that just a second. Yeah, for example, we have that currently we have like instrumentation specific classes in Java Agent API, because we want to load them into Bootstrap class loader. And so we had this idea that we use Bootstrap packages provider to allow specific instrumentations to say this package should live in Bootstrap class loader. And if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't work at the moment. But the point being that if vendor adds its own distribution, they could want to use Bootstrap packages provider.
Oh yeah, these are, I do think these are all useful. I mean, they've all been brought up by vendors and needed by vendors. I'm just trying to make a distinction between the vendors, monitoring vendors, and end users. The end users are the ones that I'm worried about breaking. I'm not.
Why don't you worry about breaking vendors?
Because there's only like 6 of them, and they all live and breathe this project, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's exactly the strange use case of us, that we have a user which packages its own distribution because he has to provide its own propagator.
Yeah, but that's the that type of user we do want to support. We do want to stabilize for that type of user.
But I mean that end user who is at the same time vendor for itself, but it uses the same very vendor specific capabilities. If he's already repackaging its own distribution,
Oh, because
you
he is repackaging your distribution. And
yes,
so you're using the advanced things. The user is not using the advanced things.
and they may start using that. They already repackaging. They already have the tools in the water. So,
But I mean, I feel like there's a pretty clear line there that we can make, that the auto configure module
okay.
is how users is our support mechanism for plugging into what most users will want to customize in the Java agent. They want to add span exporters. They want to change the propagators. They want to do.
Okay. But again, Bootstrap packages provider is useful for instrumentation authors, not vendor, not repackagers, because instrumentations can use it to specify some specific packages or classes.
Sure.
So
Well,
that's
let's see what those. Let's wait for those use cases to kind of bubble up, and I mean, I agree if there's a use case that, we see, hey, this person wants to write this instrumentation, they want to do this, then, we can provide we probably should provide a better API for them in that case than this kind of hacky API.
okay. So I think my question is, okay, we have declared our configuration stable. So we have agent 1.0 stable. What are our next steps? Okay, instrumentations and telemetry data is still waiting for SpecSeek to stabilize the notion of telemetry. So we are waiting on that. And we are working on instrumenters API for authors. Okay. What else? Do we have something else that we may wish to declare stable and provide to end users? So this SPI we have talked about, and well, it seems that we don't want yet. What else? Do we have anything else?
I think we want sort of to your, like, the extensions, basically for people to the auto shading, kind of replacement um, for the OTel exporter jar, which
Okay.
would also support third-party Java agent plugins, which would resolve potentially. I mean, that would be how we would, as opposed to people having to do their own distros, if they want to add some instrumentation to the Java agent, they could drop, the instrumentation in this OTel extensions, and we would pick it up, shade it. I don't know when we want to start thinking on metrics. I guess this is probably, I mean, this is probably the first step, really. Are you getting bored, Nikita? You don't have enough
No,
things.
no, 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 I'm thinking. I heard metrics. I got depressed at once. for some reason, I don't like them so much that I don't know. But about that extensions, does anybody feel that they want to work on that anytime soon, or I can grab it for myself?
You are welcome to grab it.
I will not be fast, but I am mildly interested in that, so I can start playing with that.
Cool.
If nobody plan to do that soon. Okay. 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 I think that's good for me for now.
We could always start looking through the issue list.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that at some point.
244.
Yeah. By the way, about issues, do we have any, like, I don't know, particular areas of interest that we want to focus on with issues? So if we or Splunk developers, for example, do want to just do something in the repo from our issue list, do we have any particular topic that we would be very happy to start attacking? If my question makes sense.
Yeah, just like basic prioritization.
Yep.
I mean, the one issue that I've always wished we fixed is the exclude URLs to tracing. I was skimming through the list. I remembered this one, and it's the one that keeps on coming up. 1060. It's not a trivial task. It's not super hard either, I think. Now that Trask made the change, so the span builders have URL information, I guess it's something we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did something like this with just a custom sampler.
And I think that the way to go, by the way, actually.
Implementation wise, I don't think users should have to do it though. Like this might involve the spec, of course, but like getting a proper way of allowing users to exclude URLs from tracing, I think it's a very important feature to have because everyone complains about their health checks showing up all the time.
Yeah, my concern with doing that purely by configuration is that specifying a list of URLs may be quite cumbersome. So -d exclude URLs and then URLs, it's very, well, unfriendly for shell parsers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we certainly can provide that functionality, but how do we configure that?
Property style. Yeah.
Well,
but it's still a big list, but it's still just like a CSV regex escaped.
YAML, it does support.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, if there was any issue I wanted someone to work on, it's this one. I think it's been a constant pain for many people. I don't know what the best solution is, so of course it starts by figuring that out.
Yeah, that's one specific issue I was more like thinking about, because well, for some reason I now look at we have quite a lot of bugs opened. I think we have starting doing something with them as well. Like 53 bugs. It's bad. Probably.
I mean, some of the bugs are bad. Some of them are not so bad. Like,
I mean, my usual MO is that I hate graveyards in backlogs.
Mhm.
So if we think that we're not going to do that, or you are welcome to provide fix, but we are not going to do that ourselves. That I think we should somehow do something about that. So I can review our backlog. Not sure if all of them, but anyway, and then close a bunch of them or do something about them. And I encourage you
of like
to do this.
like say something like this? I mean, it's a nice idea. I hate to like close it like saying like no, this is not a but I doubt that any of the existing contributors here would pick that up, for example.
Until we don't have a customer who wants to do that. Yeah. I think, well, what I probably wanted to say is that we should ourselves start doing something about our backlog, like paying attention to that, and probably sometimes choosing backlog issues versus what we actually want to work upon, like new functionality. But we still have to do some stuff. And another is probably we should really mark issues like help wanted, and maybe in our README say, if you want to contribute, these are issues that we will be grateful for. They may be not very easy, but they are those that we ourselves probably will not work on. Both like call to action and explanation, that if you see an issue, help wanted, and you want it, probably we are not going to do that for one reason or another. Please do it yourself.
This we can close. I'll leave that open.
I closed like 4 issues while we were talking about that. Does that make you happier, Nikita?
a little bit, yeah. Baby steps.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea to go through these issues, at least at some pace. I've basically not been looking at them at all, so that's a good call out. Marking help wanted is definitely good. I mean, maybe we should then just have some triage time box in this meeting to at least mark issues help wanted or something.
In the past, that didn't work very well. So my question is, do we want or do we need a collective decision on that? Or we just try to remember ourselves that if you have 15 spare minutes, try to do some triage?
I mean, you're talking about triaging the issue backlog or doing actually working on one?
I'm thinking about triage.
Triage.
Do we need to have all together, or?
Well, we were using this meeting. I mean, this meeting we could go back to, setting aside part of this meeting to even just side by side, we each go through, 20, and then discuss.
Work for me either way. Yeah.
For this meeting, I think we did have a lot of SDK stuff in this meeting for a while because of the 1.0. There was a lot going on, but I think we're probably back to mostly instrumentation stuff in this meeting, so probably would be a good issue triage touch point.
But I have one more topic that we can discuss.
Yeah.
That instrumentation distributions. That Google Doc that I wrote and that initiative that Ted is leading.
Is that your talk? That was Ted's stuff.
That about distribution, that's my part, yes.
Yeah, no wonder you responded.
Yes.
Like
this is something we missed. Let's see, where's my Slack? Was this one of the Slack links?
Yes, that was auto instrumentation Slack channel. You are there as well.
Yeah. Google Doc.
So that document which is pinned to the channel.
Pinned. Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
If you scroll a little bit down, that auto instrumentation distribution, that part is mine, where I try to outline different ways that I know of how to distribute instrumentations.
Cool. Anurag, you were mentioning last Thursday discussion you were having with Ted. Does that go anywhere? Do you want to bring that up?
So we were talking a bit about potentially having distributions like AWS distros, even Splunk, like vendor distributions actually published by OpenTelemetry also, so that they're all in one place to make sure users don't get confused, like where to file issues and whatnot. Like it wasn't a very well-baked talk or anything, but he was suggesting that it might be a good idea so that users don't end up going downstream and disappear from OpenTelemetry. So that seems like sort of an okay idea. Of course, it contributes to infinite repository growth if we then also have all the vendor distributions in this repository or in this organization. But it's just something that came up when I was talking to Ted a few days ago. Like I like the idea of not having the AWS distro so separate and far away, personally.
I don't know if user comes to OpenTelemetry and they see several vendor specific distributions, how would they choose? I mean, they usually come to vendor distribution because they're using vendor backend, I assume, or vendor runtime in case of Amazon.
Yeah,
so,
that's why.
But
that's how they would choose, I think. Yeah.
But so separate from that, what I wanted to talk in the context of this document as well is, what do we want? I mean, how we want to solve the problem of almighty God repository. I still think that in Java world, the ideal solution is user class path scanning. But well, then instrumentations can come from totally separate repos if needed or whatnot, and the user can just declare runtime dependency on instrumentation they're interested in, and they will automatically work in runtime. But
does that mean not even having a full agent at all?
Yeah, we may have just minimal agent with executor, implementation, class loader once, and all the tools, and that's it. Probably.
I'm the library instrumentation guy here, so no personal preferences there. I thought we're supposed to have a full agent just so it's one easy way to get instrumentation.
Well, that's easy, but I envision that in a year from now we have like 200 instrumentations, and any particular user is most probably interested in 10. And other 190 is totally overhead for them.
I mean, that's since the last Lego thing. That's the one that I like the best, I guess. As long as there's still the easy option where if they don't care, then they do get this 500 megabyte jar and just instrument everything. If they do care, then they can build what they need. Yeah.
Well, the problem with that is if you still want to support the use case of one mono agent with all instrumentation, that means that we have to have all of them hosted somewhere by us. And that's another problem. For example, I don't want to support that, I don't know, Apache Dubo instrumentation and care about latest dependencies and whatnot, or RF Java previous versions which were released 5 years ago, or at least not every day. I mean,
We should clarify that this doesn't necessarily mean the instrumentation implementations. Those could live separately. We just load them into the agent. So it's more just the registering instrumentation and running our latest step tests in Muzzle. That would still be in our repo though.
So yeah, I would like to form some opinion for that.
So Nikita, it sounds like the divide or the question you're asking is basically trying, like, can we decentralize the repo, even the repos not under OTel, like if somebody wants, like, for
I think that, yeah, I think that so partially, yes, I do want to decentralize all those instrumentations. I don't think that all auto instrumentations in the world should be supported by us. Us meaning this Java auto instrumentation repo maintainers. That's one thing. The second is that, yeah, we probably have to support some like tier 1 instrumentation that we deem important for the community, and we do support them and pay attention to them. So, yeah.
And so you're mostly concerned about having these in the repo or in the binary or both? Because we can also like for example, the Couchbase, they can only have library instrumentation, but they could also easily publish an instrumentation module as well for inclusion into the agent. So we could push the ownership of that module down and still depend on it and use it in our binary. That could work.
I think that I mostly worried or disturbed by monorepo. Yes, not monojar. Monojar is kind of okay-ish, but if we publish monojar, which contain third-party instrumentations, that still, if that breaks, user will blame us.
Yep.
So then we have to have some sort of, well, not specifically TCK, but something to make sure that third-party instrumentation that we include are good enough.
Definitely expect them to be running latest step tests in Muzzle. Like we'd have to provide some Gradle plugin, I think. But we could at least have some, like for any artifact we include, we first do a due diligence on that artifact. If we're using our plugin, then it's okay then.
Yeah. But here we are already in the territory that OTEL as organization certainly wants to have a say in it. I mean that certification, like this instrumentation is good enough by OpenTelemetry standards, both from telemetry side and from like stability and security side. So please participate in that discussion. Please comment on document, and maybe we should have some consensus amongst ourselves what do at least Java instrumentation want.
How much does the extensions like folder as just a drop place address this in your mind?
That's one way. That's one way to solve it. So certainly, it's somewhere in between, in the middle between our current monojar and user class path scanning, in my opinion. So that certainly will be the first step.
So as user class path, so you're thinking actually like as a Maven dependency.
Yeah.
And then that would be cool.
That may not work in all cases. Like, yeah, probably we will not support, we at least at the beginning, packaging those into WAR files, for example, maybe not. Because that brings a question: if one WAR file have instrumentation for some common library, how do we guarantee that? Well, I don't know.
We could potentially you could scope it. Yeah, we couldn't do bootstrap stuff, but potentially, theoretically, you could scope the instrumentation to the class loader that we found it in. Maybe.
Yeah, so that's certainly one way to do it. And the other is just saying, sorry, that will work only if you have like one scope, which is your JVM. We don't support multi-scopes like WAR files or ER files. That is okay, I think, and as well as long as we have that fallback mechanisms like extensions or just build your Lego yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Because well, we can even provide CLI, build Java agent with this and that instrumentation.
Right. Start that.
Yeah. So these are all cool ideas, and I think we should explore them. But again, the question is what we as the maintainers think is the best way, or it is the best first steps to do. Do we still want to have that monorepo and have everything under our control? Do we want to decentralize? I certainly do. Do we want to, if we publish monojar, then what exactly that monojar includes, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, take for example the GWT instrumentation. I mean, the option would be, I mean, it's definitely useful, right? I mean, there's definitely people, but if we didn't host it in our repo, I mean, like Splunk could host it in their repo and we could direct people to Splunk for that instrumentation.
Yeah, but that leads to a situation where we have like Guardian instrumentation and AWS have, I don't know, XYZ instrumentation. What the poor customer who wants both, what should he do? And Dynatrace has something else, and they want all three. So they still
Right.
have to be an option to mix and match.
That's the point, I guess, in that there are going to be libraries where the library maintainers are not going to instrument no matter what, for whatever reason. And then I guess the only option is for us to host it.
Yep.
And if that's 100 libraries, then I guess we get no benefit from any sort of splitting, really. Like I mean, I will say Splunk has added a ton of instrumentation lately. But most of them are the type where I don't think we can even expect those to get natively instrumented ever. So is there really any way around this?
Well, I think not, especially if you're talking about older versions that we still want to instrument. So yeah, there will be auto instrument. That's why I'm talking. So there certainly will be auto instrumentations forever. Library will not have native instrumentations, and so. But that doesn't mean that we as a maintainers have to support all of them and host all of them, etc.
Yes, like for example, the GWT, who would maintain that then?
Well, yeah. So in that particular case, I mean, Splunk added that, which means that yeah, we have to support that if we have our reasons to have that instrumentation. So we have our reasons to support it. As long as exactly is, or as long as, or especially if this particular versions are used by our customer, then we will support that. Then yeah.
But then you'll add it to the OpenTelemetry Java instrumentation repo so that other people can also have it, right? Or
yeah, so we certainly are go if we have some specific instrumentation, like we are going to publish them for everybody. Of course, that's the point. We don't want.
So that's where, like, aren't we still stuck with the monorepo then if we find so many cases of this?
Say again, I didn't understand.
So are you imagining the GWT would be in its own repository or something, or like it would still be, if it's in OpenTelemetry, it's still maintained by us three, so it doesn't really save us from this problem if this comes up a lot, I think.
think that if I could choose that will not, okay, my manager probably will not agree with me, but I wouldn't want to have that in OpenTelemetry Java instrumentation repo.
Mhm.
I would have that in signal effects organization or Splunk organization, or still open source, but in our repo. I'm not sure my manager agrees with me, but well.
And I'm not sure if Ted would agree. Like, I think just the impression I've gotten is that they want to keep as much stuff in the OpenTelemetry org.
Or
Yeah,
the library
but
owners, I guess. Yeah, not, no, but not vendors. Yeah.
yeah, okay, I don't care. We can have we can actually have like OpenTelemetry Java instrumentation contrib in OpenTelemetry repo, which has like a totally separate project that just published, and we consume them if we want. That's also a way to go. Like, yeah,
That's one to talk this through. Sounds like what we've had on our mind for a while, so that's a good thing. Maybe if it's aligning with what we've been saying for these few months, having the main repo and the config repo.
but then we have to talk to Ted about, okay, we cannot enforce that. We cannot forbid somebody else on the internet to host and to develop some auto instrumentation. So what's OpenTelemetry take on that? If that is allowed, then why cannot we have our repo for that? But I actually like that contrib a little bit more. So.
And if someone hosts their own instrumentation, we decide whether we add it to our monojar or our build tool or whatever it is we provide, based on whether it seems official or unofficial or the quality or whatnot. So we gotta have that checked there. But like if it's an official thing, if Couchbase publishes their instrumentation, of course we'd use it, I think, after confirming the quality because they're the authors. If it's just some random guy that's going to deprecate their NPM repo next week, then probably not. We just decide case by case.
Yeah, I think that is, by the way, can be solved fairly easily and to OpenTelemetry satisfaction. That vetting process will be part of inclusion into OpenTelemetry registry. And then for us, if it's an OpenTelemetry registry, we can query that and put and take whatever there is into almighty God Java agent file. So vetting is already done for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Probably we are going to do that vetting for Java instrumentation, but still that vetting is in the registry, not into our repo.
Correct.
So, but do I hear you correctly that you are okay with the idea that OpenTelemetry Java instrumentation repo contains only tier 1 instrumentation that we maintain and support? We may have a contrib repo for tier 2 instrumentations, which has the original contributor as a maintainer, at least initially. We can in the future pull things from the registry in general, and we do want to support extension mechanism, and we do still want to provide almighty jar which contains everything.
And the only point left is how to decide tier 1 and tier 2. Like the easy one, of course. We would have to decide how to pick tier 1 versus tier 2, I think. I'm not sure how to do that. I mean, so definitely getting rid of all the old versions, moving those to contrib. That's an easy one for me, I think. After that, we would have to decide.
I like that.
That's true. Yeah, that's as well.
Like,
that's
really all the old versions for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, double. I don't know. why would we call it tier 2 just because we don't like it or something? It's,
It is
yeah.
tier 2.
It's Alibaba's framework.
I think,
Yeah.
Rask, you're looking for a roadmap.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, this was for GA. I don't think this is for a more long-term tier 1, tier 2.
Already removed that. Oh.
I don't know where it went. Where did the roadmap go?
Maybe we have removed that already.
GA requirements.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was at the time my my thoughts.
I don't think we have to. I mean, we can decide this after having a contrib repo with all the old versions. That can be the next step after that. So I don't think we have to decide right now.
Yeah.
I think the old version seems much more obvious.
I can take that and bring relevant part from this to that OpenTelemetry discussion. That essentially is our. If you want that, most of these things are applicable to other languages as well, like tier 1, tier 2, contrib, registry, whatnot. So that I can formulate that as our proposal to OpenTelemetry. That may be the way to go, and then start discussion with TED and people.
That would be great. So I mean, this is still going to get really big over time, but
yeah, but at least my vision from that right now is that should be the collection of independent instrumentation. Right now, we have at least that instrumentation Gradle, which it still brings all together, and you cannot actually work with separate pieces mostly, or it's like a little bit complicated. So that repo can have mostly separate projects. We provide tooling for like testing and muzzle, and
so it's a more traditional mono repo of just like lots of different standalone projects.
Yeah, and yeah,
which is nice versus, you know, what I don't like is 100 different repos.
Yeah, absolutely. The only open question for me in that case is we still have like dependencies between instrumentation. So like for testing, we want these and Netty and JAX-RS because that framework is building upon them. So we still want those somehow interrelated, but we can think about that when time is come.
Right. Yeah. Like the contrib repo would depend on the main, of course, but then yeah, some like the Netty 4.1 tests, we pull in the 4.0 and 3.9 instrumentation, verify that there's no cross problems.
But well, that's already like tactical issues. So. Cool. Yeah. It's good to have a proposal. Yeah.
Anything? Let's see. gRPC context. Let's see.
Trying to figure out whether this reactor nitty scope leak thing is actually caused by this PR or just flakiness that I'm hitting or something. as I was debugging Reactor Nitty, I realized that most of our HTTP client tests don't actually test asynchronous callbacks. And most of them just call the callback in the caller thread for some reason. So I found that, and I'm going to first refactor all the HTTP client tests we have right now. So to separate the async and sync properly. Like ones that don't support async, we just wouldn't run them with callbacks. There's no point. And the ones that do, they actually run callbacks. Like even the reactor, if you look at the reactor netty test, it's just calling callback in the caller thread after doing the blocking get. So that doesn't test anything.
Yeah.
So I found this, and so first I think I want to clean this up because right now I don't even understand what the tests are really testing in some cases.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you were asking for next steps, Nikita, it feels like we keep finding plenty of like really important foundational issues to tackle. So at some point, those, I feel like at some point when those start to come down, you know, then we'll get bored and we'll be like, okay, we'll start looking for new
issues. Yeah.
Problems.
I mean, always happy if someone rewrites all the tests in Java. This Groovy just ruins my day every day.
I saw the Laurie didn't help your cause, Nikita. Laurie called out the Gradle Groovy madness on one of Anurag's problems.
Today, like I'm refactoring the HTTP client test, like you just can't refactor, and so it's just like this reminds me of YouTube writing in Python, a huge problem, huge project. It's just not fun. But anyways, it's not like we have the time to rewrite. Yeah.
I have 100% confidence by the end of the year our tests are going to be in Java.
It seems like a reasonable statement. Yeah. If you notice,
just because I know at some point Anurag's going to run out of work and he's just going to do it, and I'm going to approve it. And sorry, Nikita.
Well, Mateusz was converting some parts to Java as well to use.
No, it's all thanks to him that we can actually do it. Yeah. And if you noticed on my Instrumentation API PR, they're all Java.
The problem is how to convert all our certs to Java. If that is convenient, then I will not.
Very pretty. The Groovy the assertions, the span assertions are very pretty. I do like those. But
the stack traces still suck, right? They look nice until they fail, and then
you have to pick the right. You have to know which stack trace to pick. You don't go to the first stack trace. You have to go to the right stack trace and then click on the right part of the stack trace to the line that failed. Once you got that down,
do you want to consider using Kotlin? Because in Kotlin you can have nicer DSLs which are still static type. So maybe we will have our tests in Kotlin.
Better than Groovy, for sure. It's come to mind. Yeah, it might be okay.
I would not want that.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed though, because I was trying to get our testing library to work well on Kotlin. Like I assumed that Kotlin just automatically converts consumers into a nice DSL type of thing. Because that's like, if you notice our Gradle scripts, it's very easy to convert from Groovy closures to Kotlin because they're all what they call the single argument receiver or something like that, where instead of IT, it just uses this. But that's Gradle doing that in their compiler using Gradle magic. That wasn't actually a Kotlin feature. So that doesn't actually happen normally. It only happens for Gradle scripts.
Oh, is that why you haven't converted the Gradle scripts to Kotlin?
No, that's our Gradle scripts are so annoying. So I'm far less motivated than the other repo. But like Gradle has their own mechanism for converting action, like a Java consumer, into something that then you can just operate on with this. But that's not a Kotlin feature. So always you need the IT dot or whatever,
Okay.
which is not as nice. So I was so disappointed to see that. Anyways.
Or do we have something else, or I have to run?
I don't. Do you, Anurag? Did you want to?
The type initializer, I guess you're looking at it. Processor.
Oh, yeah. I thought I had a way. There's a way to, but it wasn't working. But yes, I can mess around with that some more. Yeah, there should be a way. There is. I'm sure there's a way.
I think the reactor. Maybe I didn't confirm well enough. I don't know if the reactor class had a static initializer or not, but I think reactor also isn't implying anything. So both of these are running just thanks to the executor instrumentation. So,
oh, okay. The reactor and Netty? No,
reactor. Yeah.
Reactor. Okay. Oh, it has a type initializer also.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's not running.
Have another example.
But for some reason, our executor instrumentation does okay, but I think it does sometimes leak the context for these cases because it's not. These reactor things have so many executors involved that if you instrument the wrong one, you're dead. So hopefully something will get much better once we fix this. We'll see.
Cool. Yep. I will look at that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to have you back, Nikita.
Yeah.
See you all Thursday, Friday. Bye.